As long as you keep your head to the sky, be optimistic. When in the midst of sorrow, you can't see up when looking down. A brighter day tomorrow will bring. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You hear the voice of reason telling you this cannot weigh me down. No matter how our reality seems, just hold on to your dreams, yeah. Don't give up and don't give in, although it seems you never win. You will always pass the test, as long as you keep your head to the sky. You can win, as long as you keep your head to the sky. You can win, as long as you keep your head to the sky. Be optimistic. If things around you crumble, no, you don't have to stumble and fall. Keep pushing on and don't you look back. Oh, yeah. I know the storms and strife cloud up your outlook on life. Just sing ahead and you'll be inspired to reach higher and higher. You will always do your best if you learn to never say never. You may be down, but you're not out, and that's where I felt lifted up. Don't give up and don't give in, though it seems you never win. You will always pass the test, as long as you keep your head to the sky. You can win, as long as you keep your head to the sky. You can win, as long as you keep your head to the sky. Be optimistic.
Living in the moment, who's the opponent? I own it. Get it when I want it. Composition of the golden. Enroll the school of life through the dice. Do it like eyes on the prize. Living in ambition on a mission impossible. Envision optimism through a prism that's optical to see through obstacles and be remarkable. Eyes on the prize. Living it for the infinite, intuit of the intimate, influenced by the sentiments, into it to winning it, surrendered it to the sky, centered in my eye. Eyes on the prize. Living in the glory and the story of a warrior, Victoria, the more we love. From how poor we was to euphoria, kicking the door because we think notorious. Eyes on the prize.
You can win, as long as you keep your head to the sky.
Welcome to the Brooks Center for the Performing Arts. Please take a moment to locate your nearest emergency exit. Exits are located in the front, in the rear, and on the sides of the auditorium. At this time, as a courtesy to the performers and to your fellow audience members, we ask that you turn off and store away all electronic devices, including cell phones, handheld devices, and laptops. In accordance with university policy, masks are required inside the Brooks Center at all times. Thank you very much.
Good evening. How's everyone? Okay, we got a light audience, but we can do much better as Dr. King's celebration. Good evening, everyone. All right, even though that wasn't great, we're going to get greater by the end of the day, right? Or the night, correct? Thank you to our gospel choir. One more round of applause. One thing I can tell you as a young man from Savannah, Georgia, which is southern part of the United States, you can't go wrong with a good choir. And awesome words created to remind us of our past and our future. While I love every lyric of that song they just sang, my favorite part is, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land. It reminds us that we are all immigrants to this land that we stand on, the land of indigenous people. We must remain true to our native land and true to the history that we know to be, that is the land we stand upon today. We must not forget our roots while understanding the work to make this world a better place and more committed to the history that is real. Before we begin tonight, join me in a moment of silence to reflect on our theme for today's celebration, the fierce urgency of now. Let's do what's right. President Clements, we are happy to have you for our 40th commemorative service to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at Clemson University. Thank you for your commitment and your leadership to diversity, and for being a champion for programs like the one today. And before we bring Dr. Clements forward, let me share a little bit about his legacy and his work in higher education. Dr. Clements is our 15th president. Before coming to Clemson in 2013, he served as president at West Virginia University and vice president and provost of Towson University. President Clements has worked on creating a more inclusive environment in higher education for more than 30 years. During his time at Towson University, his work related to erasing the graduation achievement gap between minority and majority students was cited in the Washington Post as a national model. Also at Towson, he co-founded a chapter for the National Society of Black Engineers, served as their advisor, and provided funding for the chapter. He also created an initiative in Maryland called the Hispanic Youth Symposium to expose hundreds of Hispanic high school students in Baltimore, Washington area to the possibility of higher education. Under his leadership as president, West Virginia University created an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and he appointed West Virginia University's first ever Chief Diversity Officer and secured a beautiful facility for that division. At WVU, he also was the principal investigator on a multi-million-dollar advance grant from the National Science Foundation to advance careers of women in higher education. In 2016, Clemson received the same grant and used it to establish the Tigers Advance program. Since his arrival at Clemson in 2013, the university has seen significant advances in minority enrollment. During that same period, he has also raised millions of dollars for scholarships for underrepresented students. On a national level, he has been a strong voice for inclusive entrepreneurship to get more underrepresented individuals creating companies and wealth, something that ties in the mission of land-grant universities like Clemson University. I bring to you Dr. Clements.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bryant, for those very kind words, and thank you for the important job you do. Good evening and welcome. Let me just start by saying thank you all for being here, whether you're in here in person. I know that I appreciate you being here, or whether you are watching our live stream. Thank you for being a part of this very special evening. I'm honored to welcome Dr. Lamont Hill to our campus. I'm sure you will enjoy listening to him. Dr. Hill is a leader. He's an author. He's an activist who not only brings much needed attention to some very important issues, but he also brings and seeks solutions. We're fortunate to have him here with us tonight to share his thoughts. I do want to thank Dr. Hill for taking the time to be with us to remember and celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I know that he will have a powerful message to share with us tonight, and I'm looking forward to hearing his words. I also want to thank the entire MLK Celebration Committee. I was looking for you earlier. I got here a couple minutes early just to thank you, but I do want to thank the committee led by Dr. Robert Bryant, Director of the Harvey and Lucinda Gantt Multicultural Center, for planning this wonderful celebration. As you can imagine, the committee worked incredibly hard through the challenges of COVID and through the recent snowstorm, but they planned a great series of events this year, and for that, I'm very, very thankful. If you served on the committee, would you just please stand and accept our thanks? I also want to thank my dear friend, Dr. Lee Gill, our Chief Diversity Officer and Special Assistant to the President. He is doing an incredible job. I want to thank him for his outstanding work, leading our efforts as we strive for an environment that really does promote inclusive excellence. I'm thankful that diversity and inclusive excellence are key priorities in our strategic plan, and we are making progress thanks to the hard work of a lot of people across the campus, many of whom are in the room this evening or watching via Zoom. We are working to create more opportunities and to provide more support for students from underrepresented populations, and we are reaching out in new ways that we have never done so before. I'm proud to say that since 2014, we have raised more than $11.4 million for diversity and inclusion efforts, and we have now more than 50 donor-funded scholarships targeted towards diversity. 2 corporate partners and donors that I just want to point out who stepped up really big for us this year, that would be GE, General Electric, and Boeing. Both companies have generously provided funding to create pathways to higher education through scholarships in the STEM fields. We have also worked to increase our focus on reaching out to in-state African American students and Hispanic students on social media, and we are now hosting several special events both on the campus and around the state for minority students who have been accepted to Clemson. By the way, I think that points back to our Vice President, Chief of Staff, Max Allen, and his insight into some of the things that we could do better. So thank you, Chief, for all that you do. 2 of our biggest programs that reach out to students across the state are Emerging Scholars and Tiger Alliance, and we continue to grow both of these programs. I do want to point out that in April, we will host our 5th annual Men of Color National Summit in Greenville. If you haven't been to one of these, you absolutely have to go. It is a must-see and attend event. It's focused on discussing ways we can close the achievement gap for African American and Hispanic males. Our last in-person summit was truly an amazing success. We had more than 2,400 people from literally across the country in attendance and an unbelievable set of speakers at that event. Last year, we had to hold our summit virtually, and it was statewide to encourage students and parents from across South Carolina. This year's summit is April 21st and 22nd. Write the date down. Make sure you attend. I do want to thank Dr. Gill for his leadership on this important initiative. He brought this idea to Clemson, and I've just witnessed it grow like crazy over the last couple of years, so thank you, Dr. Gill. Last year, we launched our Women's Roundtable Summit. The sold-out event in Greenville brought together 350 young women together to connect and to hear and discuss important topics. We had some incredible speakers, such as Soledad O'Brien, host of the national television's Matter of Fact, and Vanessa Weish, our very own alum and director of NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. We continue to make progress in our areas related to diversity of our student body, our faculty, and our staff. I do want to point out, as you all know, that we were starting from a small base a decade ago, and we still have a lot of work to do. However, the numbers are trending in the right direction. I want to point some out. Since 2013, the number of African American undergraduate students has increased by 16%, and the number of Hispanic undergraduate students has increased by 255%. I do want to take a moment to thank Julio Hernandez, our executive director of Hispanic Outreach. He is doing an excellent job, and he has a lot to do with that recent increase in Hispanic enrollment. Also, since 2013, The number of African American graduate students has increased by nearly 85%, and the number of Hispanic graduate students increased by more than 175%. We've also seen a 65% increase in the number of African American and Hispanic faculty members on our campus. So it's right to say that the numbers are moving in the right direction, but it's also fair to say that we have a lot more work to do. I'm proud of our efforts, and they've been recognized on a national level. Last semester, for the 5th year in a row, we were recognized with a HEED Award, the Higher Education Excellence in Diversity Award, given by Insight into Diversity magazine. The magazine also named us a diversity champion. They only named 15 universities in the country. That's the 4th year in a row under Dr. Gill's leadership that we have received that recognition. Let me point out, it does not mean we are perfect. We are not perfect, and we have work to do. But we have people that are making a difference, and we have programs in place that are making a difference. And we're advancing on our diversity-related initiatives. One other that I want to point out, and then I will wrap this up, and this one I'm really excited about because it's received national attention as well as local attention in the state. We received the Jesse L. Moore Supplier Diversity Award from Insight into Diversity magazine for our diversity procurement initiative, which supports the state's mission to have at least 10% of the state's agency procurement contracted awarded to minority-owned businesses. This work would not be possible without the dedication and determination of Mr. Jerry Knighton. I do want to point out that he recently delivered the keynote address for the Minority Business Enterprise Next Generation Summit. Jerry is a leader who is making a difference for emerging entrepreneurs. Jerry is here. Would you please help me thank him for what he is doing? All right, there are many reasons to celebrate our success at this point, but we must not forget this is and always will be an ongoing process. And although we are making progress, as I said earlier, we have a lot more important work to do. And I hope that the events of the MLK celebration will encourage a lot of thought and a lot of discussion about how we can keep making progress towards being the best university that we can be for everyone. And that Clemson will become a model in higher education where everyone feels welcome and everyone feels valued, in a place where everyone can succeed. And I know that Max Allen and I can count on you, that we can count on you. The provost is here as well. All of us as a team counting on each other to make a difference together. And finally, let me just say I'm proud that we have a 40-year history of celebrating the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I know that we have some wonderful events this week, both in person and virtual. Friday night, there's a virtual MLK civil rights trip, and I think that will be an amazing event for everyone who participates in it. It's going to feature a virtual tour of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. I can tell you I have been there, and it is something that every single person should and must experience. So thank you again for being here tonight. It means a lot to me personally, and it means a lot to this university that you are here. You'll get a chance to hear reflections by our amazing students. You get to hear another song by our amazing, outstanding, incredible gospel choir, who I just love and adore. You get to see the presentation of the MLK Excellence in Service Awards and our keynote address from Dr. Mark Lamont Hill. So I hope you enjoy the program, and I hope it makes a difference, and I hope the words are inspiring to all of you. May God bless you all, and go Tigers.
Thank you, President Clemens, for your welcome and your leadership. Happy New Year, and welcome to the 40th Annual MLK Commemorative Service. My name is Jaden English. I am a senior sociology major minoring in computer science from Sumter, South Carolina. I am the president of the Pi Alpha chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, president and co-founder of the REACH Project, director of signature events for Clemson Black Student Union. And this year, I have the honor of sharing the purpose and history of our Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. Throughout the years, this celebration has continued to grow and hold an essential place as a university celebration for the entire community. The first student-organized MLK commemorative service was held at the university in January 1982. The student group known as Men Interested in Alpha, MIA, worked with the Greenville graduate chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated to organize this commemorative observance at the newly renovated Tillman Hall Auditorium, better known as Old Main, on February 23, 1983. Members of MIA became charter members of the Pi Alpha chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Over the years, the Pi Alpha chapter has continued its involvement with Clemson's Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s observance. Early speakers at the commemorative observance included Charles T. Battle, MD, Seneca, South Carolina, the Reverend Sammy Jackson, pastor of St. James United Methodist Church, Seneca, South Carolina, the Honorable Frank Gilbert, former South Carolina State Senator, the Reverend James O. Rich, pastor of St. Paul Baptist Church, Anderson, South Carolina, and Louis Suggs, PhD, former professor of history here at Clemson University. In the fall of 1986, the Student Government Minority Council, known now the Council on Diversity Affairs, the Pi Alpha chapter, and the University Black History and Culture Committee organized the first commemorative march to precede the service. Initially, the march was held from the old band practice field to Memorial Auditorium at Tillman Hall. By the late 80s, the march and the service were firmly established as dual events. The spring of 1998 marked a year of renewed commitment from the university with the formation of the MLK Endowment Committee and funding from the Office of the President for the MLK celebration. This funding and strong administrative support from the Gantt Intercultural Center, now known as the Gantt Multicultural Center, have helped expand the celebration to include a day of service and various other programs for the campus and community. The increased support has also enabled the community to bring nationally recognized speakers to campus, such as Merle Evers Williams, Susan Taylor, Ossie Davis, Dorothy Cotton, David Levering Lewis, PhD, Ed Gordon, Ambassador Andrew Young, the Reverend Joseph Lowry, Doctor of Divinity, Robert Cross, Samuel Dubois, Cook, PhD, Freeman Habrowski III, PhD, Senator Carol Mosley Braun, Natobi Naomi Tutu, Harry E. Johnson Sr., David Hillard, Bob Zillner, Brian Johnson, PhD, Sabrina Fulton, Walter M. Kimbrell, PhD, and Jennifer Pinckney. Dr. King once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort, but in times of trial and controversy." This past year, we have continued to face the consequences of COVID-19. Despite this pandemic, social injustices continue throughout the country and the world, with the most defining moments being the storming of Capitol Hill by insurrectionists, the assassination of President Joël Moïse of Haiti, and the Election Integrity Act of Dr. King's home state of Georgia, which undermines the legitimacy of our democracy. This reminds us to continue to dream that Dr. King famously spoke of, to prove that those truths are truly self-evident. We have entered the third year of this pandemic, and if we haven't learned anything by now, we should have learned that we are more connected than we are separate. Annually, this celebration honors the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but also inspires us to fulfill his legacy through our actions. In the age of individualistic freedom, we must not forget the actions of one affects the whole. Even autonomous acts, such as breathing, has shown to have detrimental effects if we do not think of our fellow man. In the spirit of celebration, I challenge every one of you to carry out the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But where you stand in the trials to come will define the reality in which we live. The fierce urgency of now, let's do what is right, in our theme this year. The theme calls on each one of us to think about our now and do what is right for our communities by loving thy neighbor, reaching out to those less fortunate, uplifting our communities, and love for all mankind is our purpose in life. At least Dr. King's dream helped us understand that purpose. He stated this in his message to fellow clergy in the letter he wrote when he was in Birmingham jail in Alabama. Join me as we listen to Matthew Jordan, Jamison Taylor, Deasia Rush, and Laura Altiz share Dr. King's letter from the Birmingham jail. President Clemens and Chief Inclusion and Equity Officer Lee Gill will follow that with a presentation of the Excellence in Service Awards. The Clemson University Gospel Choir will offer a great musical selection, Total Praise, to remind us where we gain our help and strength from each day.
In 1963, a group of white clergymen published an open letter to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. calling nonviolent demonstrations against segregation unwise and untimely. From the Birmingham City Jail, where he was imprisoned for his participation in such demonstrations, Dr. King wrote the following response. While confined here in the Birmingham City Jail, I came across your recent statement calling our present activities unwise and untimely. Seldom, if ever, do I pause to answer criticism of my work and ideas. If I sought to answer the criticisms that cross my desk, my secretaries would be engaged in little else in the course of the day, and I would have no time for constructive work. But since I feel that you are men of genuine goodwill and your criticisms are sincerely set forth, I would like to answer your statement in what I hope will be patient and reasonable terms. I think I should give the reason for my being in Birmingham, since you have been influenced by the argument of outsiders coming in. I have the honor of serving as the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, an organization operating in every southern state with headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. We have some 85 affiliate organizations all across the South, one being the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights. Whenever necessary and possible, we share staff, educational, and financial resources with our affiliates. Several months ago, our local affiliate here in Birmingham invited us to be on call to engage in a nonviolent direct action program if such were deemed necessary. We readily consented, and when the hour came, we lived up to our promises. So I am here, along with several members of my staff, because we were invited here. I am here because I have basic organizational ties here. Beyond this, I am in Birmingham because injustice is here. Just as the 8th century prophets left their little villages and carried their "Thus saith the Lord" far beyond the boundaries of their hometowns, and just as the Apostle Paul left his little village of Tarsus and carried the gospel of Jesus Christ to practically every hamlet and city of the Greco-Roman world, I too am compelled to carry the gospel of freedom beyond my particular hometown. Like Paul, I must constantly respond to the Macedonian call for aid. Moreover, I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Never again can we afford to live with the narrow provincial outside agitator idea. Anyone who lives in the United States can never be considered an outsider. You deplore the demonstrations that are presently taking place in Birmingham, but I am sorry that your statement did not express a similar concern for the conditions that brought the demonstrations into being. I am sure that each of you would want to go beyond the superficial social analyst who looks merely at effects and does not grapple with the underlying causes. I would not hesitate to say that it is unfortunate that so-called demonstrations are taking place in Birmingham at this time, but I would say in more emphatic terms that it is even more unfortunate that the white power structure of this city left the black community with no other alternative. In any nonviolent campaign, there are 4 basic steps: collection of the facts to determine whether injustices are alive, negotiation, self-purification, and direct action. We have gone through all of these steps in Birmingham. There can be no gainsaying of the fact that racial injustice engulfs this community. Birmingham is probably the most thoroughly segregated city in the United States. Its ugly record of police brutality is known in every section of the country. Its unjust treatment of black people in the courts is a notorious reality. There have been more unsolved bombings of black homes and churches in Birmingham than any other city in this nation. These are the hard, brutal, and unbelievable facts. On the basis of them, black leaders sought to negotiate with the city fathers, but the political leaders consistently refused to engage in good faith negotiation. Then came the opportunity last September to talk with some of the leaders of the economic community. In these negotiating sessions, certain promises were made by the merchants, such as the promise to remove the humiliating racial signs from the stores. On the basis of these promises, Reverend Shuttlesworth and the leaders of the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights agreed to call a moratorium on any type of demonstration. As the weeks and months unfolded, we realized that we were the victims of a broken promise. The signs remained. As in so many experiences of the past, we were confronted with blasted hopes, and the dark shadow of a deep disappointment settled upon us. So we had no alternative except that of preparing for direct action, whereby we would present our very bodies as a means of laying our case before the conscience of the local and national community. We were not unmindful of the difficulties involved, so we decided to go through a process of self-purification. We started having workshops on nonviolence and repeatedly asked ourselves the questions: are you able to accept blows without retaliating? And are you able to endure the ordeals of jail? We decided to set our direct action program around the Easter season, realizing that with the exception of Christmas, this was the largest shopping period of the year. Knowing that a strong economic withdrawal program would be the byproduct of direct action, we felt that this was the best time to bring pressure on the merchants for the needed changes. Then it occurred to us that the March election was ahead, so we speedily decided to postpone action until after Election Day. When we discovered that Mr. Connor was in the runoff, we decided again to postpone action so that the demonstration could not be used to cloud the issues. At this time, we agreed to begin our nonviolent witness the day after the election. This reveals that we did not move irresponsibly into direct action. We too wanted to see Mr. Connor defeated, so we went through postponement after postponement to aid in this community need. After this, we felt that direct action could be delayed no longer. You may well ask, why direct action? Why sit-ins, marches, and so forth? Isn't negotiation a better path? You are exactly right in your call for negotiation. Indeed, this is the purpose of direct action. Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and establish such creative tension that a community that has consistently refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks to dramatize the issue so that it can no longer be ignored. I just referred to the creation of tension as a part of the work of the nonviolent resistor. This may sound rather shocking, but I must confess that I am not afraid of the word tension. I have earnestly worked and preached against violent tension, but there is a type of constructive nonviolent tension that is necessary for growth. Just as Socrates felt that it was necessary to create a tension in the mind so that individuals could rise from the bondage of myths and half-truths to the unfettered realm of creative analysis and objective appraisal, we must see the need of having nonviolent gadflies to create the kind of tension in society that will help men to rise from the dark depths of prejudice and racism to the majestic heights of understanding and brotherhood. So the purpose of direct action is to create a situation so crisis-packed that it will inevitably open the door to negotiation. We therefore concur with you in your call for negotiation. Too long has our beloved Southland been bogged down in the tragic attempt to live in monologue rather than dialogue.
One of the basic points in your statement is that our acts are untimely. Some have asked, why didn't you give the new administration time to act? The only answer that I can give to this inquiry is that the new administration must be prodded about as much as the outgoing administration. We will be sadly mistaken if we feel that the election of Mr. Boutwell will bring the millennium to Birmingham. While Mr. Boutwell is much more articulate and gentle than Mr. Connor, they are both segregationists, dedicated to the task of maintaining the status quo. The hope I see in Mr. Boutwell is that he will be reasonable enough to see the futility of massive resistance to desegregation. But he will not see this without pressure from the devotees of civil rights. My friends, I must say to you that we have not made a single gain in civil rights without determined legal and nonviolent pressure. History is the long, tragic story of the fact that privileged groups seldom give up their privileges voluntarily. Individuals may see the moral light and voluntarily give up their unjust posture, but as Mr. Randall Neber has reminded us, groups are more immoral than individuals. We know through painful experiences that freedom is never voluntarily given by their oppressor and must be demanded by their oppressed. Frankly, I have never yet engaged in direct action movement that was well-timed, according to the timetable of those who have not suffered unduly but the disease of segregation. For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. It has been a tranquilizing thalidomide, relieving the emotional stress for a moment, only to give birth to an ill-informed infant of frustration. We must come to see with this distinguished jurist of yesterday that justice too long delayed is justice denied.
Of direct action, who paternalistically feels that he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives in the myth of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than the absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is more bewildering than outright rejection. In your statement, you asserted that our actions, even though peaceful, must be condemned because they precipitate violence. But can this assertion be logically made? Isn't this like condemning the robbed man because his possession of money precipitated the evil act of robbery? Isn't this like condemning Socrates because his unswerving commitment to truth and his philosophical delvings precipitate the misguided popular mind to make him Drake the Hemlock? Isn't this like condemning Jesus because his unique God consciousness and never ceasing devotion to his will precipitate the evil act of crucifixion? We must come to see, as federal courts have constantly affirmed, that this immoral urge to an individual to withdraw his efforts to gain his basic constitutional rights because the quest precipitates violence. Society must protect the robbed and punish the robber. I had hoped that the white moderate would reject the myth of time. I received a letter this morning from a white brother in Texas which said, "All Christians know that the colored people will receive equal rights eventually, but is it possible that you are in too great of a religious hurry? It has taken Christianity almost 2,000 years to accomplish what it has. The teachings of Christ take time to come to earth." All that said, here grows out a tragic misconception of time. It is a strangely irrational notion that there is something in the very flow of time that will inevitably cure all ills. Actual time is neutral. It can be used either destructively or constructively. I am coming to feel that people of ill will have used their time much more effectively than the people of goodwill. We will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the vitriolic words and actions of bad people, but for appalling the silence of good people. We must come to see that human progress never rolls on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and persistent work of men willing to be co-workers with God, and without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally in the forces of social stagnation. You spoke of our activity in Birmingham as extreme. At first, I was rather disappointed that a fellow clergyman would see my nonviolent efforts as those of extremists. I started thinking about the fact that I stand in the middle of two opposing forces in the Negro community. One is a force of compliancy, made up of Negroes who, as a result of long years of oppression, have been so completely drained of self-respect and a sense of somebodyness that they have adjusted to segregation. And on the other hand, a few Negroes in the middle class who, because of a degree of academic and economic security, and because at points they profit by segregation, have unconsciously become insensitive to the problems of the masses. The other force is one of bitterness and hatred, and comes perilously close to advocating violence. It is expressed in the various Black nationalist groups that are springing up over the nation, the largest and best known being Elijah Muhammad's Muslim movement. This movement is nourished by the contemporary frustration over the continued existence of racial discrimination. It is made up of people who have lost faith in America, who have absolutely repudiated Christianity, and who have concluded that the white man is an incurable devil. I have tried to stand between these two forces, saying that we need to not follow the do-nothingism of the complacent or the hatred and despair of the Black nationalists. There is a more excellent way of love and nonviolent protest. I'm grateful to God that through the Negro Church, the dimension of nonviolence entered our struggle. If this philosophy had not emerged, I'm convinced that by now, many streets in the South would be flowing with floods of blood. I am further convinced that if our white brothers dismissed as rabble-rousers and outside agitators, those of us who are working through the channels of nonviolent direct action and refuse to support our nonviolent efforts, millions of Negroes, out of frustration and despair, will seek solace and security in Black nationalist ideologies, a development that will lead inevitably to a frightening racial nightmare. Oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The urge for freedom will eventually come. This is what happened to the American Negro. Something within has reminded him of his birthright of freedom. Something without has reminded him that he can gain it. Consciously and unconsciously, he has been swept in by what the Germans call Zeitgeist. And with his Black brothers of Africa, and with his brown and yellow brothers of Asia, South Africa, and the Caribbean, he is moving with a sense of cosmic urgency toward the promised land of racial justice. Recognizing this vital urge that has engulfed the Negro community, one should readily understand the public demonstrations. The Negro has many pent-up resentments and latent frustrations. He has to get them out, so let him march sometime. Let him have his prayer pilgrimages to the city. Understand why he must have sit-ins and freedom rides. If this repressed emotion do not come out in these nonviolent ways, they will come out in ominous expressions of violence. This is not a threat. It is a fact of history. So I have not said to my people, get rid of your discontent, but I have tried to say that this normal and unhealthy discontent can be channeled through the creative outlet of nonviolent direct action. Now, this approach is being dismissed as extremist. I must admit that I was initially disappointed in being so categorized. But as I continued to think about the matter, I gradually gained a bit of satisfaction from being considered an extremist. Was not Jesus an extremist in love? Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, pray for them that despitefully use you. Was not Amos an extremist for justice? Let justice roll down like waters of righteousness like a mighty stream. Was not Paul an extremist for the gospel of Jesus Christ? I bear my body in the marks of the Lord Jesus. Was not Martin Luther an extremist? Here I stand, I can do no other, so help me God. Was not John Bunyan an extremist? I will stay in jail to the end of my days before I make mockery of my consciousness. Was not Abraham Lincoln an extremist? This nation cannot survive half slave and half free. Was not Thomas Jefferson an extremist? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. So the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists we will be. Will we be extremists for hate, or will we be extremists for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice, or will we be extremists for the cause of justice? I hope that the white moderate would see this. Maybe I was too optimistic. Maybe I expected too much. I guess I should have realized that few members of a race that has oppressed another race can understand or appreciate the deep groans and passionate yearnings of those that have been oppressed. And still, fewer have the vision to see that injustice must be rooted out by strong, persistent, and determined action. I am thankful, however, that some of our white brothers have grasped the meaning of this social revolution and committed themselves to it. They are still all too small in quantity, but they are big in quality. Some, like Ralph McGill, Lillian Smith, Harry Golden, James Debb, have written about our struggles in eloquent, prophetic, and understanding terms. Others have marched with us down nameless streets in the South. They sat with us at lunch counters, and they rode with us on freedom rides. They have languished in filthy, roach-infested jails, suffering the abuse and brutality of angry policemen who see them as dirty nigger lovers. They, unlike many of their moderate brothers, have recognized the urgency of the movement and sensed the need for powerful action, antidotes to combat the disease of segregation.
Let me rush on to mention my other disappointment. I have been disappointed with the white church and its leadership. Of course, there are some notable exceptions. I am not unmindful of the fact that each of you has taken some significant stands on the issue. I commend you, Reverend Stallings, for your Christian stand this past Sunday and welcoming Negroes to your Baptist church worship service on a non-segregated basis. I commend the Catholic leaders of this state for integrating Spring Hill College several years ago. But despite these notable exceptions, I must honestly reiterate that I have been disappointed with the church. I do not say that as one of those negative critics who can always find something wrong with the church. I say it as a minister of the gospel who loves the church, who was nurtured in it, who has been sustained by its spiritual blessings, and who will remain true to it as long as the cord of life shall lengthen. I had this strange feeling when I was suddenly catapulted into the leadership of the bus protest in Montgomery several years ago that we would have the support of the white church. I felt that the white ministers, priests, and rabbis of the South would be some of our strongest allies. Instead, some few have been outright opponents, refusing to understand the freedom of the movement and misrepresenting its leaders. All too many others have been more cautious than courageous and have remained silent behind the anesthetizing security of stained glass windows. In spite of my shattered dreams of the past, I came to Birmingham with the hope that the white religious leadership of this community would see the justice of our cause and with deep moral concern serve as the channel through which our just grievances could get to the power struggle. I had hoped that each of you would understand, but again, I have been disappointed. I have heard numerous religious leaders of the South call upon their worshipers to comply with the desegregation decision because it is the law. But I have longed to hear white ministers say, "Follow this decree because integration is morally right and the Negro is your brother." In the midst of blatant injustices inflicted upon the Negro, I have watched white churches stand on the sidelines and merely mouth pious irrelevancies and sanctimonious trivialities. In the midst of a mighty struggle to rid our nation of racial and economic injustice, I have heard so many ministers say, "Those are social issues with which the gospel has nothing to do with." And I have watched so many churches commit themselves to a completely otherworldly religion which made a strange distinction between bodies and souls, the sacred and the secular. There was a time when the church was very powerful. It was during that period that early Christians rejoiced when they were deemed worthy to suffer for what they believed. In those days, the church was not merely a thermometer that recorded the ideas and principles of popular opinion. It was the thermostat that transformed the mores of society. Wherever the early Christians entered a town, the power structure got disturbed and immediately sought to convict them for being disturbers of the peace and outside agitators. But they went on with the conviction that they were a colony of heaven and had to obey God rather than man. They were small in number but big in commitment. They were too God-intoxicated to be astronomically intimidated. They brought an end to such ancient evils as infanticide and gladiatorial contest. Things are different now. The contemporary church is often a weak, ineffectual voice with an uncertain sound. It is so often the arch supporter of the status quo. Far from being disturbed by the presence of the church, the power structure of the average community is consoled by the church's often vocal sanction of things as they are. But the judgment of God is upon the church as never before. If the church of today does not recapture the sacrificial spirit of the early church, it will lose its authentic ring, forfeit the loyalty of millions, and be dismissed as an irrelevant social club with no meaning for the 20th century. I meet young people every day whose disappointment with the church has risen to outright disgust. I hope the church as a whole will meet the challenge of this decisive hour. But even if the church does not come to the aid of injustice, I have no despair about the future. I have no fear about the outcome of our struggle in Birmingham, even if our motives are presently misunderstood. We will reach the goal of freedom in Birmingham all over the nation because the goal of America is freedom. Abused and scorned though we may be, our destiny is tied up with the destiny of America. Before the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before the pen of Jefferson scratched across the pages of history the majestic word of the Declaration of Independence, we were here. For more than 2 centuries, our foreparents labored here without wages. They made cotton king, and they built the homes of their masters in the midst of brutal injustice and shameful humiliation. And yet, out of a bottomless vitality, our people continue to thrive and develop. If the inexpressible cruelties of slavery could not stop us, the opposition we now face will surely fail. We will continue our freedom because the sacred heritage of our nation and the eternal will of God are embodied in our echoing demands. I must close now, but before closing, I am impelled to mention one other point in your statement that troubled me profoundly. You warmly welcomed the Birmingham Police Force for keeping order and preventing violence. I don't believe you would have so warmly commended the police force if you had seen its angry, violent dogs literally biting 6 unarmed, nonviolent Negroes. I don't believe you would so quickly commend the policemen if you would observe their ugly and inhumane treatment of Negroes here in the city jail. If you would watch them push and curse old Negro women and young Negro girls. If you would see them slap and kick old Negro men and young boys, if you would observe them, as they did on 2 occasions, refusing to give us food because we wanted to sing our grace together. I'm sorry that I can't join you in your praise for the police department. It is true that they have rather been disciplined in their public handling of the demonstrators. In this sense, they have been publicly nonviolent, but for what purpose? To preserve the evil system of segregation. Over the last few years, I have consistently preached that nonviolence demands that the means we must use be as pure as the ends we seek. So I've tried to make it clear that it is wrong to use immoral means to attain moral ends. But now I must affirm that it is just as wrong, or even more, to use moral means to preserve immoral ends. I wish you had commended the Negro demonstrators of Birmingham for their sublime courage, their willingness to suffer, and their amazing discipline in the midst of the most inhumane provocation. One day the South will recognize its real heroes. They will be the James Merediths, courageously and with a majestic sense of purpose, facing jeering and hostile mobs and the agonizing loneliness that characterizes the life of the pioneer. They will be old, oppressed, battered Negro women symbolized in the 72-year-old woman of Montgomery, Alabama, who rose up with a sense of dignity and with her people decided to not ride the segregated buses, and responded to one who inquired about her tiredness with ungrammatical profundity. My feet is tired, but my soul is rested. They will be young high school and college students, young ministers of the gospel, and a host of their elders courageously and nonviolently sitting in at lunch counters and willingly going to jail for conscience' sake. One day the South will know that when these disinherited children of God sat down at lunch counters, they were in reality standing up for the best in the American dream and the most sacred values in our Judeo-Christian heritage. Never before have I written a letter this long, or shall I say a book. I'm afraid that it is much too long to take your precious time. I can assure you that it would have been much shorter if I had been writing from a comfortable desk, but what else is there to do when you are alone for days in the dull monotony of a narrow jail cell other than write long letters, think strange thoughts, and pray long prayers? If I had said anything in this letter that is an understatement of the truth and is indicative of an unreasonable impatience, I beg you to forgive me. If I had said anything in this letter that is an overstatement of the truth and is indicative of my having a patience that makes me a patient with anything else less than brotherhood, I beg God to forgive me. Yours for the cause of peace and brotherhood, Martin Luther King, Jr.
Can we give them another round of applause? Ebony Magazine has named this individual one of America's 100 Most Influential Black Leaders. He is the author and co-author of several books and publications, amongst them being Beats, Rhymes, and Classroom Life. Identity, The Classroom in the Cell, Conversations on Black Life in America, and a New York Times bestseller, Nobody, Casualties of America's War on the Vulnerability, from Ferguson to Flint and Beyond. Mark Lamont Peel is one of the leading intellectual voices in the country. He is currently the host of BET News and former political commentator for CNN. An award-winning journalist, Hill has received numerous prestigious awards from the National Association of Black Journalists and the International Academy of Digital Arts and Sciences. Following Dr. Hill's remarks will be a moderated questions and answer sessions with Mr. Jerry Knighton. Mr. Jerry Knighton, Assistant Vice President for Access and Equity, will moderate the question and answer segment with Dr. Hill's remarks. Mr. Knighton has a long tenure at Clemson University and is a respected leader on campus. He is also Dr. Hill's fraternity brother of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Can we give a round of applause for Dr. Hill?
Thank you, brothers. That's how it should be. Members of Omega Psi Phi. Cleaning things up for the noobs. Good evening, everybody. It is an extraordinary honor and privilege to be here with you all this evening as we take time to think about the life and the legacy of the great Martin Luther King Jr. Someone who I regard, who we should all regard, I would estimate, as one of the greatest human beings this country has ever produced. I never take for granted that there is an MLK celebration, because despite the unanimity in saying we need one, we need an MLK Day, we should honor MLK, we should have an MLK Day, this was not a day that was produced easily. This is a day that was produced out of decades of struggle. For you students, you don't know a world without an MLK Day. But it was a contested struggle on the ground in every city, in every state. People, grassroots activists, teachers, mothers, fathers, people working to fight, to insist that this country honor the life and legacy of a man who gave his very body as a ransom for America's democratic experiment. So I never want to take this day lightly. I also never want to reduce this day to a day of service. Dr. King's legacy reminds us of the importance of service, that we must serve the people if we indeed have the expectation of leading them somewhere else, that the greatest amongst us will be our servant. That's the tradition out of which King emerges as a prophetic preacher. But the radical tradition is also the tradition that anchors Martin Luther King Jr. And so when we think about the life and the legacy of King and we think about MLK Day, it can't just be a day of service. We can't just go out there feeling good about ourselves because we gave away some clothes we wasn't going to wear no more and some food we wasn't going to eat no more. No. MLK Day is a day of radical action, a day of radical planning, a day of radical teaching, a day of radical organizing. When we talk about MLK Day, we have to be thinking about the radical tradition and how we can move this nation into a new space. When I say radical, I mean it quite literally. The radical tradition. Radical simply means to get at the root. We want to get at the root causes of our struggles, the root causes of poverty, the root causes of violence, the root causes of all the harm that people are experiencing in this American democratic project. And so, who better to help us think about the radical legacy than Dr. King? And what better moment to do it than now, against the backdrop of so much misery, against the backdrop of so much pain, against the backdrop of so much inequality and injustice. It was no different in King's time. April 3rd, 1968, he gives a speech prophetic by any account. King was reflecting on death. When King says he'd been to the mountaintop, he was reflecting on his own life. When King talked about what he had seen and the grace and mercy that God had given him to be able to survive the stabbing that he'd experienced years before, that if only he had sneezed, he would have been denied access to so many valuable years. But he begins that speech talking about the moment that he would choose to live in. He said, if the Almighty came to me and asked me, Martin Luther King, in what era would you want to live? King reflected with us, with the crisis of Memphis in the backdrop. King said, I would take a kind of scenic and panoramic view and tour of human history. And he began in Greece. And he talked about what it would mean to be in Greece and to be in Greece with Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Euripides, and Aristophanes as they assembled along the Parthenon. He said, but I wouldn't stop there. He went to Rome and talked about Roman civilization and its benefit to humankind. He said, but I wouldn't stop there. He said, I'd go to the door of the church in Wittenberg where my namesake attached 95 Theses to the door. He said, but I wouldn't stop there. He goes to Lincoln, the vacillating president who was forced to sign an Emancipation Proclamation. He said, I wouldn't stop there. And he takes us to Roosevelt and he goes all the way up to 1968. And he said, if I could choose any moment, I would choose this moment in 1968. He said, some would say that's a strange statement. The world is all messed up. He said, but only when it is darkest can we see the stars. We are faced with a similar moment right now in 2022. Oh, it's dark. Pandemic that might be unforeseeable, matched by quite foreseeable public policies and debates that have caused people to die from preventable illnesses. We live in the richest empire in human history, and people go to bed hungry every single night. Children go to bed hungry every single night. People are being shot down in the streets. People are living in housing conditions so unlivable that people are dying in fires by the dozen. We have forms of racism and xenophobia that are so intense that rather than moving toward freedom and justice, we seem to be moving in the other direction. We had a synagogue just last week held hostage. We live in a country that continues to use war as its primary instrument of foreign policy. We continue to build more jails and shut down more schools. This is our reality. It is dark. So what's our star? 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 Our star is this radical tradition that King draws us to. You see, King penned a book where he posed the question, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? We can't turn to chaos. So how do we build community in this moment of darkness? Well, King gives us a few lessons that I want to share with you all, if you don't mind. And then I'll leave you alone. The first lesson is to release the imagination. Perhaps the thing that King is known most for, y'all might have heard of it, the I Have a Dream speech. But what does it mean to have a dream? King's dream wasn't merely an exercise in abstraction. It wasn't merely him deploying his own sense of fantasy. It wasn't him just reflecting on what he wanted the world to be. King was anchoring himself in the best of the black radical tradition, what the historian Robin Kelly refers to as freedom dreams. Dreaming of impossible worlds. Dreaming of the world that is not yet. Operating against all evidence to the contrary. You see, it's the radical freedom dream that allows enslaved Africans to believe that they could not only be freed from captivity, but become full participants in this project known as America. That's what a freedom dream is. A freedom dream operates against the evidence sometimes. It forces you to be a prisoner of hope. King was a Baptist preacher. King was a Morehouse man. King was deeply studied in the teachings of the great Howard Thurman, the theologian and mystic, who talked about what it meant to be no longer prisoner of an event. Prisoner of a moment, prisoner of a statistic. Thurman said we should not reduce our dreams and our aspirations to the level of that which is our immediate experience. What does that mean? Not to reduce your dreams to the level of that which is your immediate experience. It means you don't have to be prisoner of an event. He was a Christian. So for him, it was about the story of the cross, the scandal of the cross. And so for Thurman, he was saying that the crucifixion didn't tell the whole story of the possibilities of God, because while there is a crucifixion, there was also a resurrection. And so while the crucifixion didn't tell the final story of life, we do not have to be prisoners of the events of our lives. Let me say it again. He was saying that just as Jesus was not prisoner to the events of the cross, we don't have to be prisoner to the events of our lives. You ain't even got to be Christian to understand what it means to say we don't have to be prisoner of the moment. The radical imagination says that no matter how bad things are, no matter how dangerous things may seem, we as human beings have the capacity to do something different and better. And so while we may be looking socially dead, and as Orlando Patterson teaches us, slavery was social death, on the third day, we will rise up and do something different. For King, that something different was what he was articulating in I Have a Dream speech. It's what he was demanding us to imagine. So what does it mean for us to release our imaginations now? What does it mean for us to have a radical imagination? Maybe we don't have to simply imagine prison reform. Maybe we could imagine a world where police and prisons aren't needed, where people's needs are met, where we no longer ask who did it and how do we punish them, but instead ask who was harmed and how do we make them whole again. An abolitionist vision. Maybe we don't just need a successful Me Too movement, but we could imagine a world where patriarchy and sexism and misogyny and rape culture are eliminated such that we don't need one. A radical imagination. The Kingian tradition is one of radical imagination, anchored by the hard work. Because this ain't magic, y'all. You can't just dream of something else. If that was it, the football game would have went different. You got to, too soon? You got to be willing to do the work. The radical imagination gets stoked not just by politics, but by art, by creativity, by love, by community. Even Martin himself, Martin Luther King was meandering a little bit till he heard Mahalia Jackson, the great gospel singer in the background, said, "Tell him about the dream, Martin." And then he articulates the most ambitious and humane and loving freedom dream that we've probably ever seen in the public sphere. What else do? We must listen. We must engage in acts of deep listening. Deep listening. January 15th, 1968, Martin Luther King wakes up for his final birthday on this planet, 39 years old. I think this half of the room like, wow, 39. This half of the room like, 39? So young. He woke up. He had breakfast with his family. Went to the church. They had a small cake for him. They sang happy birthday to him. And then he began the work of deep listening. King met with Negro preachers. They were trying to figure out how to build on the gains of 64 and 65. He listened. He met with Chicano activists. They were fascinated by what was happening at the border. He was fascinated by the possibilities of a multiracial coalition. He wanted to thicken and deepen our vision of democracy and our coalitions. He listened. He met with sanitation workers. One had been mauled on the job in Chicago, and they were trying to figure out how to get safer working conditions and workers' rights and living wages. He listened to them. He met with anti-war activists. They were trying to figure out how to stop that thing in Vietnam. He listened. King was not just an amazing preacher. He wasn't just an extraordinary oratorical wizard. He was one of the great political strategists of the 20th century. King understood that we were stronger, and these are the lessons for all of us, that we are stronger when we're not merely locked at the arm singing "we shall overcome," but also locked at the circumstance. That when we understand the interconnectedness of our struggles, when we understand the relationship between the work that you're doing over there and the work that you're doing over here, when we understand that, we are better able to, one, analyze our circumstance, and two, organize to fight our circumstance. King understood that a baby was worth the same, whether the baby was born in Boston or Birmingham or Botswana or Berlin, that the baby was worth the same. The human life was valuable. All human life was valuable, irrespective of race, class, creed, geography, gender. But he also understood that America had a different response to white suffering than black suffering. And he understood that tactically, at times, we had to whiten the face of poverty to make it real. He understood that JFK walking through Harlem in 1960 was dismissed as a cheap campaign stunt when he held up those black babies. They said he's trying to make Adam Clayton Powell happy. You know how those northern liberals are. Trying to get cheap votes. Like Bill Clinton going on Arsenio Hall in '92, playing the saxophone. Hillary and Selma in '08 trying to clap on beat in church. And he understood the sharp contrast between our response to that and our response to Bobby Kennedy walking through West Virginia. He's in Appalachia, holding up that white baby whose belly is bloated, snot's coming down his nose, and we begin our war on poverty. Again, King wasn't assigning different value to different lives. King was saying that America does, and in order to be tactically wise, we must be connected. We must understand the intersections. We must understand our common misery. We must understand the systems that bind and oppress all of us. The same thing right now. Don't tell me you working on education reform and ain't got time to think about prisons. When our educational system is driving our most vulnerable children into social vulnerability and social death vis-a-vis the prison. And people who are incarcerated, one of the things that makes them less likely to return to prison and more likely to integrate successfully back into society is education. And what is the thing that is being increasingly stripped out of the prison? Education. We got to listen to each other. We got to listen to each other when we talk about fighting poverty over here and fighting war over there. There's a relationship between poverty, or more importantly, there's a relationship between capital and violence. The great poet Gil Scott-Heron said, everybody loves peace. Problem is you can't make no money off of it. What does it mean to think about our socially vulnerable being sent off to war to fight vulnerable black and brown people abroad? This is part of our critique. This is part of King's critique. But we got to listen. You worried about environmental justice, you worried about racism. There's a relationship between the two. Go to Flint, Michigan. Go to Benton Harbor, where they still got lead in the water right now. Up to 10,000 parts per billion. The EPA says you shouldn't have more than 15 parts per billion in water to be drinkable. The average glass in Flint at one point had 300 parts per billion. The dirtiest water had 15,000 parts per billion. Look at where nuclear waste is dumped. Look at where power plants are built. Look at food insecurity. There is a relationship here that y'all have to have, but we got to be willing to listen to each other. I'm gonna leave y'all alone. I'm gonna get a glass of water right here, then I'm gonna say something else. Then I'm gonna leave y'all alone. But Dr. King's tradition is also one of radical patriotism. King was attempting to get America to not just listen to the voices of the poor, to not just listen to the voices of each other, but to get America to listen to itself. As King said, be true to what you said on paper. See, King was a bad boy, man. August 28th, 1963 is the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Children, students, not, I shouldn't call y'all children. I'm just at the age where I got kids y'all age. Students, don't let them tell you that March on Washington was just a March on Washington. It was a March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Negroes wasn't just marching to go outside. It wasn't let's go for a walk. King and his peers, his colleagues, his comrades were looking at the social landscape of 1963 and saying, we are 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Lincoln was supposed to have freed us. We were emancipated in 1863, and now it's 1963, and we are free but unequal. We are free but subjected to black codes. which emerged from slave codes. We are free, but subjected to state violence and state-sanctioned violence. We are free, but being lynched. We are free, but our money is counterfeit. We can't buy Coca-Cola or have a sandwich at a Horn and Hardart. We can't sit at a Woolworth lunch counter. We can't have our picture taken at the Washington Monument, but dogs can. So the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom was an attempt to call the nation to be accountable for its broken promises. That is why he stands in front of Lincoln to give the I Have a Dream speech. But be clear, the I Have a Dream speech was not purely about a dream. In fact, it was not primarily about a dream. The speech was about broken promises. We should call it the Broken Promise speech. He says, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand, signed an Emancipation Proclamation. A great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand, signed an Emancipation Proclamation. He's saying, Lincoln freed us. King refers to the Declaration of Independence. He calls it a hallowed decree and a great beacon of light. He's alluding to the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Emancipation Proclamation. He calls them promissory notes. He's saying they like money, they like checks. He said, I come to the nation's capital to cash a check. He says, the Negro stands on an island of poverty amidst the mass ocean of material wealth and prosperity. He said, the Negro's check has been returned in sufficient funds. He said, but I refuse to believe, this is the radical hope, I refuse to believe the great vaults of democracy could be empty. He's saying, America, you promised. 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments, America, you promised. Emancipation Proclamation, you promised. Declaration of Independence, you promised. Constitution, you promised. 1896, Plessy versus Ferguson, American, you promised. 1954, the second 14th Amendment decision, Brown v. Board, you promised. 1955, Brown v. Board 2, America, you promised. 1964, Public Accommodations, America, you promised. 1965, Voting Rights Act, America, you promised. King's vision is a project of radical listening to see if we can produce a nation that listens to itself so that it can ultimately be as good as its promise. So, where does that leave us? We dream radically and we listen carefully. And then what? In King's tradition, you got to act bravely. You got to do something. If you don't remember nothing else I tell y'all today, biggest problem in the world today is that it's too many people who don't do anything. We're dying in the streets. Our rights, our voting rights are being stripped from us. Our reproductive freedom is being taken. The right to love who you want is being undermined. We are losing control of our schools, losing control of free speech. We must act. We must act. We must act courageously in King's tradition, locally and nationally. As King said, dogs bite us in Birmingham, we bleed everywhere. He's talking about local organizing and mass action combined. That means you organize on campus, but you're in conversation with the broader national movement. Y'all with me? Organize local, but engage in mass action. What does it mean to act? You got to do something. What's the best way to do something? To organize. How do you organize? this. I talk to young people all the time about how to organize. I can't organize. Every time you organize a party, every time you throw a party, you're an organizer. You say you ain't never been a campus organizer, community organizer. You threw that party, what time is it right now? It's 20 minutes to 8. I promise you, if y'all wanted to have a party at the spot at 11, y'all could make it happen. Y'all will find out who gonna do what, who gonna bring what, who gonna look out for this, who gonna call who gonna make sure so-and-so is there, who gonna make sure so-and-so ain't there, who gonna, all the stuff. Organize. But the beautiful thing about social justice work is that you ain't got to do it solo. You can join an organization. Notice I didn't say start one. I said join one. Join an organization. We live in a moment, particularly in the era of the selfie, the era of everybody got their own Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and this and that. I can't even keep up. Everybody to start their own show. A lot of times we want to start things, but we don't want to join things. But we are at a moment where we must submerge the ego and recommit, rededicate ourselves to joining organizations, to being a part of organizations. King was not flying solo. The great lie and myth of history is that history is advanced by individual freedom fighters who come along and save the day. For every king, there are tens of thousands, no, there are hundreds of millions of people throughout human history who stood in the gap and never got their names named. They never got their face on a flyer. They never got put in the history book. They never got no fancy title, but they were willing to organize. They were willing to sacrifice. They were willing to teach. They were willing to learn. They were willing to make a photocopy. They were willing to fry some chicken. They were willing to bail somebody out of jail. They were willing to pray for somebody. They were willing to do something to strike a blow for freedom. That is what it means to be part of a movement. And if you're going to be part of a movement, that means you can't leave when somebody get mad at you. That don't mean that you leave when you don't get elected president. That means that you don't leave when the person you in love with don't love you no more, or you don't love them no more. It don't mean that when you don't get your way, you roll out. What it means is you stay and you drill down 10 toes, as Dr. King, or maybe Nipsey would say, and you stay there until freedom is won. This is what it means. This is what it means. Join. But don't just join anything. Unfortunately, that's what those members of Omega Psi Phi did. Make sure the organization that you join does what it's supposed to do. It ain't enough to join the NAACP. You got to ask what kind of NAACP we gonna be. We gonna be a wealth-chasing NAACP? I got my name on the business card NAACP. I got something nice for my resume NAACP. I look cool on the gram NAACP. Or you gonna be a 1909 Ida B. Wells Barnett lynch-stopping, freedom-chasing, Africa-affirming NAACP? Who do you wanna be? You join a Black Greek letter organization, cool, but what you gonna do? Are you gonna live up to the honor and principles and courage of your founders? Or are you only gonna focus on strolling? Are you gonna focus on what you did to get in and stop? Can you imagine walking through college bragging about your high school essay? Then you drop out. Or are you going to focus on honoring the principles that you swore to before you got in? Nothing makes a liar out of you like a lifetime commitment. All y'all walking around talking about you good and you good for nothing. Who do you want to be? It means you got to take action. It means you don't just show up to the step show. You teach kids how to read. It means the alphas, you don't just organize a party. Take the kids to the rink and teach them how to skate. Nobody skates like I have alphas. It means that you do the work that you swore, that you took an oath to take, to do. This is what it means. This is what it means to make your organization do what it's supposed to do. That's what courageous action is. But to act courageously, you can't just do it when it's easy. You can't just do it when it's comfortable. You can't just do it when everybody agrees with you. Martin Luther King was applauded by white liberals and white conservatives in 1963 when he told Negroes not to fight back. And I'm not dismissing Dr. King. There's nothing more courageous than nonviolence. I need you to understand that. The courage that it takes to walk through the Jim Crow South knowing that you're going to be hit with a rock, knowing that you're going to be spat on, knowing that you're going to be stabbed and shot, and that you still come back, and that you have a moral center that is so strong that you are able to say that my nonviolence might not stop you from hating me, but it'll stop me from hating you, and that's important. That's something unique. That's a different kind of composition. Y'all talking about something, I wouldn't have did that. You might not have had the courage to be nonviolent. So I'm not trying to dismiss nonviolence, but what I'm saying is that King was applauded for a stance on nonviolence when it came to the Negro not taking up a weapon. But when King stood in Riverside Church on April 4th, 1967, 1 year to the day before he died, and said that I will not support this war in Vietnam. In fact, this is why I oppose the war in Vietnam. He became an enemy of the state because he spoke truth to power, because he no longer was operating the interests or reflecting the interests of the White House. They dismissed him. His own Baptist convention kicked him out. They said Dr. King was too vain, that he was interested in the newspaper, that he was all in the videos. They said that Dr. King was doing too much. These are the people who said Dr. King was good enough to be 1963 Time Man of the Year, Magazine Man of the Year, but in 1968, he couldn't make Morehouse College's Board of Trustees. They said Dr. King went to jail too much. They said he was a bad influence on young people. You see, courageous action means that you're going to be unpopular. Brothers, when you speak out against patriarchy and sexism, you're going to be unpopular. When we speak out against transphobia and homophobia, we're going to be unpopular. We have to be courageous anyway. In King's tradition, you have to be willing to speak the truth, though it may be bitter. You have to be willing to take those hits. You have to be willing to be alone. The great W.E.B. Du Bois, another beloved member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, he died on August 27th, 1963, the night before the March on Washington. He had created Crisis Magazine. He was part of the Niagara Movement. He had helped found the NAACP. He had written some of the most important books of the 20th century, and he was but an afterthought because he had the courage to speak up and speak out. He was alone. The great Malcolm X, when he was shot down in the Audubon Ballroom, very few people were standing beside him. Many had left him. He was alone. Paul Robeson, Marcus Garvey, Harriet Tubman walking through the woods to free Negroes who didn't even know that they were unfree, alone. Angela Davis facing the death chamber 3 times, 3 charges of death, sat in that cell alone. Assata Shakur in Middlesex and Clinton Correctional Facility alone. Nelson Mandela alone. In the era where we find our value in how many people follow us and how many likes we get, you need to understand that if you're doing this thing right, you're not going to be popular. If that many people agree with you, if that many people like you, you probably ain't doing it right. You have to be willing to be alone. You have to be willing to find a small coalition of people who will ride with you and struggle for you and strike a blow for freedom for you. And if you do that, then and only then will you be operating in the tradition of the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And then and only then will we be moving toward the world that we so richly deserve, and the world for which the King of Love gave his very life. Clemson, I want to thank you. God bless you. Free the land, free all political prisoners.
Dr. Hill, thank you so much for those insightful words. We really appreciate you being with us tonight. It's a privilege and an honor for me to be on the stage with you to engage in this Q&A. What I'd like to first of all ask is there anything, well, given Dr. King's legacy and his fight for civil rights, what do you think about the current status of the conversation regarding the Voters' Rights Act? And what can students and communities do to play a role in preserving these rights?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's hard not to be frustrated when, for the last week, we watch people avoid any kind of responsibility as members of Congress for preserving the voting rights of their constituents. Watching people display political cowardice, watching people go along to get along, as they used to say. And then on Monday, they all took a break, posted Instagram pictures and tweets and press releases about how they love and admire Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And then after talking about how they love King and what he stood for, they then went back to denying the expansion of voting rights or the sustaining of voting, the sustenance of voting rights, which is one of the things for which King not only lived, but that he died for. So I think, again, in King's tradition, voting is a tactic. It is a strategy among many. We don't fetishize voting in the Black radical tradition. It's necessary. I think everyone should register. I think everyone should vote. And I don't just mean every 4 years. I mean every election year should vote. Because every time you don't vote, your political opponents are voting. One thing about anti-Semites, one thing about white supremacists, one thing about creationists, one thing, and I can name about 10 groups of people, they vote consistently. They don't miss an election. If you don't believe in dinosaurs, I promise you, you vote every time. If you oppose reproductive justice, you vote every time. If you don't like black people, brown people, immigrants, refugees, Jewish people, Mexican people, you vote all the time. And we have to match that vote with intensity. The fact that we have the raw numbers to defeat our political opponents is why we see the voting, the attempts to suppress or otherwise block our votes. So in King's tradition, because we don't see the vote as a silver bullet, we have to both use the vote strategically and tactically, but we also have to recognize the importance of other tactics, not just to get free, but to even get the vote. Right? King didn't say, let's vote our way to voting rights. We didn't stand on a Pettus Bridge getting beaten for any reason other than it was a necessary tactic in order to shift the public consciousness. The spectacle of violence that we saw on that Pettus Bridge is something that allowed us to then create a different kind of consciousness among white liberals who may do something different if we weren't getting beaten in the dark alleys or in the bushes, but we were getting beaten in broad daylight. Let's put a spotlight on Bull Connor. So today, I think similarly, we have to be willing and able to put a spotlight on these injustices. We need to use the media differently and tactically and strategically. The sit-in is an act of theater. The march is an act of theater. We need our own acts, spectacles of violence and spectacles of protest as theater to shift national consciousness. We have to also apply pressure on politicians, including Democratic politicians. Black people are a captured electorate. That is to say, quite often, black people feel like Republicans aren't going to do anything for them, and so they can't vote Republican, and so then they vote Democrat, and then the Democratic Party takes us for granted, and we vote for any Democrat at all times under any circumstances without any kind of accountability, without an ask. Now, I'm not saying y'all should all go out and vote Republican. What I am saying is that we should be active in shaping who our candidates are, shaping who our politicians are, who our representatives are. There should be no such thing as a safe district. Because when you have a safe congressional district where the person ain't got to run and raise any money and they know they're going to keep getting elected for 20, 30, 40 years, there's no reason for them to be accountable to you. So we have to create that accountability by leveraging our power and our votes. We got to organize. You will get what you organize for.
Thank you for that. The past 2 years has exposed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think we should have learned from the past 2 years?
I don't know where we're going with this. Russell Westbrook shouldn't be a starting point guard. I mean, whew, that's a broad question. I think I'll give you a couple of things that I think are interesting to me. One is a very sobering assessment of human beings. When you tell people, look, you got to wear a mask because it'll save your life, they're like, all right, I might be with that. When you tell people you got to wear a mask because it'll save somebody else's life, they're like, no, I mean, can we even trust this mask? The amount of selfishness, the refusal to think about the collective is so deeply indebted to capitalism, so deeply indebted to our culture of decadence, of solipsism, that we end up sort of failing by any measure, a test of our capacity to operate as a beloved community. I'm not saying that if we had all worn masks and stayed in the house that we wouldn't have COVID. COVID is a very complicated, messy thing. I think that we've learned about the politics of public health. We've learned so many things about how we have been, the political impulse to say I was wrong, or the political impulse to never say I was wrong. Because we live in a culture that says, in 1952, you said cigarettes were fine, and now in 1986, you stopped smoking. Flip, flop, flip, flop. And, and it's like, well, we did some research and found out they kill us, so I stopped smoking. So you're a flip-flopper. It's almost as if the only way to have political integrity would be to just keep smoking till you die, right? This is how sometimes our political debates end up. It's like, well, I got better information. I made a better choice. I made a more informed choice. There's no room for that. Similarly, we have projected a level of certainty about every public health determination that we've made over the last 2 years, even when we've clearly been wrong. I believe we should follow the science. But I also, as someone who thinks about science a great deal, understand that science is something that we're figuring out, right? We're always uncovering. It's like that book, Masks of the Universe. We're always uncovering new masks and getting closer and closer to the truth. Any truth we arrive at is a provisional truth, as a pragmatist would say. It's a provisional truth. What's my point? My point is, over the last 2 years, we've learned how messy it is when the politics and the public health get mixed in, because people can't say, well, you know what? Yeah, we thought that, you know, this vaccine would help us, would be 95% effective. Clearly, it's not 95% effective, at least not against the Omicron variant. So it wasn't really against the Delta. But you should still get vaccinated. But we've learned more about this variant, and it's a little more complicated than we thought. You can't say that. They just be like, oh, we never said that. We just said you wouldn't go to the hospital. So then people who are anti-vaccine have red meat. And they're like, no, you said this, then you said this, then you said this, then you said this. And so then it emboldens them to take a position against science, because the people who are leaning on science aren't acknowledging that they got it wrong. And so you end up in this really interesting space where nobody trusts anything. And then the meme, and this is the other thing, people will believe, you talk about critical media literacy, I mean, thinking about how much people will believe if it's just on the internet or if it's on a meme, right? I remember I had a mild heart attack in the end of September 29th, I believe. I had a pulmonary embolism that caused an NSTEMI, which was caused by deep vein thrombosis, which was caused by rupturing my Achilles, which was caused by trying to play basketball at 42. That's another thing I learned in the last 2 years. Don't do that. And I remember I announced that I was sick after I'd had the pulmonary embolism, I had the clots removed from my lungs. And I immediately saw right-wing news outlets say that I had gotten the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and had been immediately given blood clots that almost killed me. I was shocked to find out that this had happened. I didn't even know that I had taken the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And there was a real meanness about it. I mean, people weren't just saying, as a matter of fact, they were saying, ha ha, I told you, I bet you won't get that booster now. I bet you I told you now, how you feel now? It's like, I mean, I literally almost died. I was very, very close to death. But, so there's a meanness to it. It's like, why are y'all so invested in this, right? But also, a way that the misinformation, so somebody made a decision to make that up. Right? That's the disinformation part. Right? Somebody made a decision to present something to the world that wasn't true. And then it circulated like wildfire because it reflected people's political needs and interests. And then after they did that, it just became true to people. And I think about all the other truth claims that were asserted by people purely because it was on the internet, purely because it was on a website, purely because a commentator on some news outlet said it. And it's like, nah, they make stuff up too. I mean, Joe Rogan makes a great podcast, but he just be saying stuff sometimes. And it's not a left-wing, right-wing thing. Although, I don't want to pretend that they're opposite sides of the same coin. I mean, I think there's a lot more disinformation coming from the right on this issue than the left. But nobody's hands are clean here. And it's sort of stunning how easily you can manipulate a reasonably informed and educated citizenry through particular tactics. The last thing I'll say, though, because I feel like I've been giving you all bad news. The last 2 years has taught me, has reminded me, has assured me that we will be victorious. There were years where people said, let me tell y'all why before you clap. You might disagree. We've been fighting for reparations and arguing for reparations for decades. And they said, we can't do that. Where are we going to get the money? How are we going to find out who to give it to? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do it? Then when American capitalism was on the line, they found $1 trillion with a trillion with a T. And they gave out them stimmies, as we call them. I don't know what y'all call them down here. I don't know if we call them stimmies. They gave out them stimmies, them stimulus checks. And they found people, they found names, they found this, they found that. They got PPP loans. They gave out $500 billion, in PPP loans to companies. They found a way to find resources. They found a way to develop 4 vaccines, if you count AstraZeneca. They were able to come up with patents and recipes. They did all this stuff like that when it served the state's interest. The state tipped its hand. I've been preaching abolition. I'm part of a tradition of abolition, prison abolitionists. And I said, we can decarcerate. We can let people out of prison. We can excarcerate. We don't have to charge people for everything. They said, oh, we can't do that. What about safety? What about this? What about this? What about this? Then when the Rona hit, police said, you know, maybe we ain't gonna walk up on everybody on the street and stop and frisk them. You know what? Maybe some people who got weed in their pocket, we just gonna let them have weed in their pocket. Suddenly, people who are 70 and 80 years old in prison, they said, you know what, when the COs and the correctional officers decided that was a risk to them, although the COs are far more risk to the incarcerated folk than the opposite, because they're the ones going in and out in the world. But they said, you know what, maybe we can let out some of the nonviolent offenders. You don't say. So suddenly, so many of our radical, impossible fantasies, as they called them, were doable when it served the state's interest. They showed their hand. And what did we do? We took to the streets. Y'all took to the streets. They killed George Floyd. In this generation, in my generation, we were calling for, you know, the people who beat Rodney King on VHS to just get charged, first to get fired, then to get arrested. Then it was like, okay, well, maybe we could, you know, there was a time we just wanted to integrate the police department. We just wanted to get beat by black cops. You know, spice it up a little, you know? Then it was like, all right, well, let's fire the bad cops. Then it was, well, maybe if police were forced to live in our neighborhood and we had a different model of policing, and we kept expanding the vision. But y'all generation, it took what was a marginal discourse in my time, which was the critical resistance, which was the radical abolitionists, the defunding, and y'all said, no, no, no. Let's move it to the center. Y'all killed George Floyd, defund in Minnesota. Defund, abolish, disarm. People said it was impossible. But we've had affirmative votes by city councils for abolition. Y'all took stuff that was impossible and made it possible. That's why I believe we can win. I have never been more certain that we will be victorious in our struggle than I am at this very moment for that reason.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. Wonderful. I don't know how much time we have left, but I did want to ask this question for our students, because we see this as an opportunity to enlighten them and to share some interesting insights. So if you could give our Clemson students one message, what would it be?
Resist. Resist. The world is on fire. Resist. People will tell you that your value is assessed by how much money you make. Resist. Develop a different vision. People will tell you that the world can't be any better than it is right now, that we have reached the end of our democracy. But as we learned in the last month, it can be better if you resist. You're going to be in spaces where you're the only black person. You're going to be the fly in the buttermilk. And you have the opportunity at that moment to go along to get along. But your ancestors demand something better from you. Resist. There will be times where you won't be the person they talking about. You won't be the person oppressed. It'll be a Jewish person. It'll be a Muslim. It'll be an immigrant. It will be a trans person. It'll be a disabled person. But you have a duty and a responsibility to resist. The university will tell you, we applaud your resistance. We like when you resist. Here's a resistance area. Resist that too. If everybody comfortable, it ain't resistance. Resist. And my last word to you all is a word that I find great comfort in. It's a mantra that I find great comfort in. It's one from Kiese Laymon. Kiese Laymon is one of the great writers of this generation. He wrote a book called Heavy. It's a beautiful memoir. And in it, he talks about all of us deserving three things: good love, healthy choices, and second chances. What a beautiful idea. What a grand idea. We all deserve good love. That can be at the interpersonal level. For the grown folk, that might be at the romantic level. But it's also at the social level. Justice is what love looks like in public. We all deserve good love. We all deserve to believe that we got the right hips and lips and noses and hair. You shouldn't go to the school store and not be able to buy beauty supplies for your hair as it grows out of your head. You shouldn't be able to walk. You shouldn't have to walk into a cafeteria and not have food that reflects your upbringing. Don't give me no Tabasco sauce. I want hot sauce. That Tabasco was a microaggression. We all deserve to be treated like human beings. Good love. We all deserve healthy choices. You ever be in something so bad you don't realize how bad it is? And you don't realize you deserve something better. Again, for some of y'all, it might be a relationship. For some of y'all, it might be a friendship. For some of y'all, it might be a family situation. For some of us, it's our neighborhoods where we don't realize that we deserve to get fresh fruit and vegetables in our neighborhood. We shouldn't have to get on a bus or go all the way up to Whole Foods, which costs a whole check. But instead, we deserve it right here. That we deserve clean neighborhoods, that we deserve running water, clean running water, that we deserve choice schools. We deserve healthy choices. And when we mess up, because we all mess up, we all fall short, we all deserve second chances. We all deserve grace and mercy. White folk with their opioid addictions get grace and mercy. Our crack addictions got us 10, 20 years. We all deserve good love. We all deserve healthy choices. We all deserve second chances. That's the world that we have to fight for. That's the world we deserve. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful experience. Let's give our speaker, Dr. Hill, another round of applause. Yes, by all means. By all means. And I'd just like to say I'm humbled by the opportunity to share stage with Brother in the Bond. That's right. Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. So all the brothers in the audience, we're proud to be a part of this program. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Now we will have Chief Inclusion and Equity Officer, Dr. Lee Gill, and President Clemens.
As we walk up here, why don't y'all give us a hand? Come on. First off, let me say, and I know Dr. Clemens agrees, Professor Mark Gill, outstanding presentation. Let's give him a hand. Dr. Clemens and I are here to do a wonderful service to three individuals who have been, quite frankly, outstanding in community, faculty, and staff, as well as student involvement here at Clemson University. This is truly a wonderful event for us, especially coming on such a powerful message that's been rendered to us we push the button, please? A community inclusive of all people, regardless of race, gender, class, ethnicity. A community that recognizes people as individuals first, each with unique set of life experiences that shape their perspectives. A community where these varied perspectives are brought together in a collective effort to achieve goals for the common good, the beloved community. Our first awardee this evening, please. Ronnie Clevestein, student recipient. Ronnie, please join us on stage. Good. As you can see, the reasons why Ronnie was selected for this most important award as one of our student recipient. Our next awardee, please. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Our awardee, please. Dr. Jasmine Townsend, faculty staff recipient. Dr. Townsend. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. Our next awardee, Rita Singh, community recipient. And that concludes our Service and Excellence Award for Diversity and Inclusion on Martin Luther King Day. Thank you all.
And now for the Clemson University Gospel Choir with a musical selection, Total Praise.
Keep clapping. They deserve more than that. Good job, good job, good job, good job. Wonderful. All right. You can stand or whatever makes you all comfortable. So, what about tonight? What about tonight? A wonderful, wonderful evening. So before I go into my remarks, I want to say thank you to all of our student participants, our choir, our readers, please stand. Our MC, did Jaden already leave us? Our MC. Great shout out to my fraternity brothers, Dr. King's fraternity brothers, the brothers of Pi Alpha chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. My brother back there, all the alphas in the room, please stand. And so what a wonderful evening we have all experienced. And I want to say thank you to all who made this moment special, especially our MLK committee. I am so thankful to the Division of Inclusion and Equity for the support and trust provided to me and the committee to make this a great week. I am also thankful to the Harvey and Lucinda Gant Multicultural Center team for support, wisdom, and ideas to make sure that this day and every day is special for our students. Please stand if you are a member of the Inclusion and Equity or Gant family. I know some of you all are here. Now, Maurice will appreciate this part because many hours of planning and replanning and praying were shared amongst many of us on this committee. I am so grateful to have colleagues who care deeply about this week and truly make this place a wonderful place to work collaboratively. I'm happy to know that our campus community believes in excellence, especially the people who work in partnership with GANTS to enhance cultural competence at this university. So thank you to the committee, all of our participants, and a special thank you to Julian Nixon. He could not be with us tonight. He was my co-chair, and I mean co-chair in a very special way. He stood with me in the thick and the thin, and we made it happen. But Julian couldn't be here tonight, but one of our doctoral students, Maurice, raise your hand, stood in the test of time, and I tell you, just like a good alpha man, made it happen with me. So thank you, Maurice. So as we close, just a few announcements. Just remember that we do have the virtual civil rights trip. You go on clemson.edu/MLK to get more information about that trip. But you all, I just want to thank you to everyone who was attending, whether you're live streaming or here tonight. Special congratulations to our award winnees. If you would take another stand, we are just so proud of the work you've done. And I think our theme, as I close out tonight and I listened to Mark Hill, one of the things, and this is especially to our students, the mark of a good leader, at least I believe, and as you heard our theme tonight, is be willing to stand alone. When you have values, when you know you're right, and when you're standing in the truth, stand alone is sometimes a mark of a good leader. So when that happens, just keep praying and keep pushing, and things will happen. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night. Drive home safe.